Namaste friends. Welcome back to day 4 of the week-long celebration of Super Duper International Gita Festival. It is so good to see you all here. Nidhi ji, for a change, I like you also seeing here in this international.
Same here. Now, we are so used to seeing each other. Yeah, Kavita, it's such a blessing.
Yes, a few weeks ago, Bhagavad Gita was just lying in the bookshelf. Like you see here, I've just put it.
True.
But the reason for putting it here is because now I am actually opening it. I'm reading it. I'm trying to, it's the begin. Now I'm beginning to understand how valuable it is.
Correct.
It's just not a scripture. I feel now it is a way of life because there's so many verses, so many quotes that we see from Bhagavad Gita when during our recitation and reading sessions.
Yes.
If I sit and think about them, it feels like how well they can be applied to our day-to-day lives. And all the special talks that we are having from our JK Yoga Academy speakers, they open a completely new perspective to apply these Gita teachings into our lives.
Very true, Kavita. I mean, as you mentioned, same thing happened to me too. It is just like, showpiece for me. Since we are in US, for us, like Bhagavad Gita is actually known by all the people from every country. So for us, this really hold a very special place. So I had really decorated in a bookcase. But then I'm also coming to know how valuable it is. It's just priceless, Kavita. And I'm so happy to be here attending this whole session. We are going chapter by chapter, understanding the meaning and reciting, listening to the recitation. It's just mind-blowing for me especially,
Right. Yes.
So, are you ready to know what's the agenda for today?
Yes, please.
So we will continue our recitation and reading of Bhagavad Gita. And the topic for today, for the special talk, it is Science of Work from the Gita, Karma Yoga by Aditya, our JK Yoga instructor. Karma Yoga, it's very, very helpful for us. So make sure you attend this program. You can also share it with your friends and family. Go to your social media account, share it in your timeline, WhatsApp your friends. This is a really amazing talk.
Yes.
So I would want to ask the audience something, because they have been listening to the Gita, studying the Gita, even the contestants, their families who have participated. This is like a small quiz, only one question. Okay. And that is, what is the 47th verse of chapter 2? Kavita, do you want to give them a clue? The people who are new and who have not been our participants?
Yes, Nidhi, I can pick up the book from here and probably start. But I think I'll just say, to give them a clue, this clue is meaning of a verse.
Yeah.
That your right is only to perform your duty. You do not have the right to expect any consequences thereof. You should neither be motivated by the fruits of your action, nor should they encourage you to be inactive.
I know by now everybody must have guessed it, because this is something everybody knows it,
Yes, they know. So now let's completely tune ourselves, be away from all the distractions and listen attentively. Moving on to our reading section.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Dashamodhyayaha Vibhuti Yogaha. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Bhuya eva mahabaho Shrunu me paramam vachaha Yatte ham priyamanaya Vakshyami hitakamyaya न मे विदुःसुरगणाः प्रभवं न महर्षयः अहमादिर्हि देवानां महर्षीणां च सर्वशः यो मामजमनादिं च वेत्ति लोकमहेश्वरम् असम्मूढसमत्येषु सर्वपापैः प्रमुच्यते बुद्धिर्ज्ञानमसम्मोहः क्षमा सत्यं दमः शमः सुखं दुःखं भवो भावः भयं चाभयमेव च अहिंसा समता तुष्टिः तपोदानं यशो यशः भवन्ति भावा भूतानां मत्त एव पृथग्विधाः महर्षयः सप्त पूर्वे चत्वारो मनवस्तथा मद्भावा मानसा जाताः येषां लोक इमाः प्रजाः एतां विभूतिं योगं च मम यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः सोऽविकम्पेन योगेन युज्यते नात्र संशयः अहं सर्वस्य प्रभवः मत्तः सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां बुधा भावसमन्विताः मच्चित्ता मद्गतप्राणाः बोधयन्तः परस्परं कथयन्तश्च मां नित्यं तुष्यन्ति च रमन्ति च तेषां सततयुक्तानां भजतां प्रीतिपूर्वकं ददामि बुद्धियोगं तं येन मामुपयान्ति ते तेषामेवानुकम्पार्थम् अहमज्ञानजं तमः नाशयाम्यात्मभावस्थः ज्ञानदीपेन भास्वता अर्जुन उवाच परं ब्रह्म परं धाम पवित्रं परमं भवान् पुरुषं शाश्वतं दिव्यम् आदिदेवमजं विभुम् आहुस्त्वामृषयः सर्वे देवर्षिनारदस्तथा असितो देवलो व्यासः स्वयं चैव ब्रवीषि मे सर्वमेतद्धृतं मन्ये यन्मां वदसि केशव न हि ते भगवन् व्यक्तिं विदुर्देवानदानवाः स्वयमेवात्मनात्मानं वेत्थत्वं पुरुषोत्तम भूतभावनभूतेश देवदेव जगत्पते वक्तुर्मर्हस्य शेषेण दिव्याख्यात्मविभूतयः याभिर्विभूतिर्भिर्लोकान् इमां त्वं व्याप्य तिष्ठसि कथं विद्यामहं योगिं त्वां सदा परिचिन्तयन् केषु केषु च भावेषु चिन्त्योऽसि भगवन्मया विस्तरेणात्मनो योगं विभूतिं च जनार्दन भूयः कथय तृप्तिर्हि शृण्वतो नास्ति मे मृतम्। श्रीभगवानुवाच हन्त ते कथयिष्यामि दिव्याख्यात्मविभूतयः प्राधान्यतः कुरु श्रेष्ठ नास्तन्तो विस्तरस्य मे अहमात्मा गुडाकेशः सर्वभूताशयस्थितः अहमादिश्च मध्यं च भूतानामन्त एव च आदित्यानामहं विष्णुः ज्योतिषां रविरंशुमान् मरीचिर्मरुतामस्मि नक्षत्राणामहं शशि वेदानां सामवेदोऽस्मि देवानामस्मि वासवः इन्द्रियाणां मनश्चास्मि भूतानामस्मि चेतना रुद्राणां शङ्करश्चास्मि वित्तेषो रक्ष रक्षसां वसूनां पावकश्चास्मि मेरुः शिखरिणामहं पुरोधसां च मुख्यं मां विद्धि पार्थ बृहस्पतिं सेनानीनामहं स्कन्दः सरसामस्मि सागरः महर्षीणां भृगुरहं गिरामस्येकमक्षरं यज्ञानां जपयज्ञोऽस्मि स्थावराणां हिमालयः अश्वत्थः सर्ववृक्षाणां देवर्षीणां च नारदः गन्धर्वाणां चित्ररथः सिद्धानां कपिलो मुनिः उच्चैश्रवः समश्वानां विद्धि माममृतोद्भवम् ऐरावतं गजेन्द्राणां नराणां च नराधिपम् आयुधानामहं वज्रं धेनूनामस्मि कामधुक् प्रजनश्चास्मि कन्दर्पः सर्पाणामस्मि वासुकिः अनन्तश्चास्मि नागानां वरुणो यादसामहं पितॄणामर्यमां चास्मि यमः संयमतामहं प्रह्लादश्चास्मि दैत्यानां कालः कलयतामहं मृगाणां च मृगेन्द्रोऽहं वैनतेयश्च पक्षिणां पवनः पवतामस्मि रामः शस्त्रभृतामहं झषाणां मकरश्चास्मि श्रोतसामस्मि जाह्नवी सर्गाणामादिरन्तश्च मध्यं चैवाहमर्जुन अध्यात्मविद्या विद्यानां वादः प्रवदतामहम् अक्षराणामकारोऽस्मि द्वन्द्वः सामासिकस्य च अहमेवाक्षयः कालः धाताहं विश्वतो मुखः मृत्युः सर्वहरश्चाहम् उद्भवश्च भविष्यताम् कीर्तिर्श्रीर्वाक् च नारीणां स्मृतिर्मेधा धृतिः क्षमा बृहत्साम तथा साम्नां गायत्री छन्दसामहम् मासानां मार्गशीर्षोऽहं ऋतूनां कुसुमाकरः द्यूतं छलयतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहं जयोऽस्मि व्यवसायोऽस्मि सत्वं सत्त्ववतामहं वृष्णीनां वासुदेवोऽस्मि पाण्डवानां धनञ्जयः मुनीनामप्यहं व्यासः कवीनामशुना कविः दण्डो दमयतामस्मि नीतिरस्मि जिगीषतां मौनं चैवास्मि गुह्यानां ज्ञानं ज्ञानवतामहं यच्चापि सर्वभूतानां बीजं तदहमर्जुन न तदस्ति विना यस्यात् मया भूतं चराचरं नान्तोऽस्ति मम दिव्यानां विभूतीनां परन्तप एष तुद्देशतः प्रोक्तः विभूतेर्विस्तरो मया यद्यद्विभूतिमत्सत्त्वं श्रीमदूर्जितमेव वा तत्तदेवावगच्छत्वं मम तेजोंश सम्भवम् अथवा बहुनैतेन किं ज्ञातेन तवार्जुन विष्टभ्याहमिदं कृत्स्नम् एकांशेन स्थितो जगत् ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे विभूतियोगो नाम दशमोऽध्यायः। श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।
Chapter 10 Vibhuti Yoga. Yoga through appreciating the infinite opulences of God. The blessed Lord said, "Listen again to my divine teachings, O mighty armed one, desiring your welfare because you are my beloved friend, I shall reveal them to you. Neither celestial gods nor the great sages know my origin. I am the source from which the gods and great seers come. Those who know me as unborn and beginningless and as the supreme Lord of the universe, they among the mortals are free from illusion and released from all evils. From me alone arise the varieties in the qualities amongst humans, such as intellect, knowledge, clarity of thought, forgiveness, truthfulness, control over the senses and mind, joy and sorrow, birth and death, fear and courage, non-violence, equanimity, contentment, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy. The 7 great sages, the 4 great saints before them, and the 14 Manus are all born from my mind. From them, all the people in the world have descended. Those who know in truth my glories and divine powers become united with me through unwavering bhakti yoga. Of this there is no doubt. I am the origin of all creation. Everything proceeds from me. The wise who know this perfectly worship me with great faith and devotion. With their minds fixed on me and their lives surrendered to me, my devotees remain ever contented in me. They derive great satisfaction and bliss in enlightening one another about me and conversing about my glories. To those whose minds are always united with me in loving devotion, I give the divine knowledge by which they can attain me. Out of compassion for them, I, who dwell within their hearts, destroy the darkness born of ignorance with the luminous lamp of knowledge. Arjun said, "You are the supreme divine personality, the supreme abode, the supreme purifier, the eternal God, the primal being, the unborn and the greatest." The great sages like Narad, Asit, Deval and Vyas proclaim this, and now you are declaring it to me yourself. O Krishna, I totally accept everything you have told me as the truth. O Lord, neither gods nor the demons can understand your true personality.
Indeed, you alone know yourself by your inconceivable energy. O Supreme Personality, the Creator and Lord of all beings, the God of gods, and the Lord of the universe. Please describe to me your divine opulences by which you pervade all the worlds and reside in them. O Supreme Master of Yoga, how may I know you and think of you? And while meditating, in what forms can I think of you, O Supreme Divine Personality? Tell me again in detail your divine glories and manifestations, O Janardhan. I can never tire of hearing your nectar. The blessed Lord spoke. I shall now briefly describe my divine glories to you, O best of the Gurus, for there is no end to their detail. O Arjun, I am seated in the heart of all living entities. I am the beginning, middle, and end of all beings. Amongst the 12 sons of Aditi, I am Vishnu. Amongst luminous objects, I am the sun. Know me to be Marichi amongst the marits, and the moon amongst the stars in the night sky. I am the Samaveda amongst the Vedas, and Indra amongst the celestial gods. Amongst the senses, I am the mind. Amongst the living beings, I am consciousness. Among the Rudras, know me to be Shankar. Amongst the demons, I am Kuber. I am Agni amongst the Vasus, and Meru amongst the mountains. O Arjun, amongst priests, I am Brahaspati. Amongst various chiefs, I am Kartikeya, and amongst reservoirs of water, know me to be the ocean. I am Brigu amongst the great seers and this transcendental Om amongst sounds. Amongst chants, know me to be the repetition of the holy name. Amongst immovable things, I am the Himalayas. Amongst trees, I am the people tree. Of the celestial sages, I am Narad. Amongst the Gandharvas, I am Chitrath. And amongst the Siddhas, I am the sage Kapil. Amongst horses, know me to be Uchaisrava, begotten from the churning of the ocean of nectar. I am Airavata amongst all lordly elephants and king amongst humans. I am the Vajra amongst weapons and Kamadhenu amongst the cows. I am Kamdev, the god of love, amongst all causes for provocation. Amongst serpents, I am Vasuki.
Amongst the snakes, I am Anand. Amongst the aquatics, I am Varun. Amongst the departed ancestors, I am Aryama. Amongst dispensers of law, I am Yamraj, the Lord of Death. I am Prahlad amongst the demons. Amongst all that controls, I am time. Know me to be the lion amongst animals, and Garud amongst the birds. Amongst purifiers, I am the wind. Amongst wielders of weapons, I am Lord Ram. Of water creatures, I am the crocodile. And of flowing rivers, I am the Gangas. O Arjun, know me to be the beginning, middle, and end of all creation. Among science, I am the science of spirituality, and in the debates, I am the logical conclusion. I am the beginning, A, amongst all letters. I am the dual word in grammatical compounds. I am the endless time, and amongst creators, I am Brahma. I am the all-devouring death, and I am the origin of those things that are yet to be. Amongst feminine qualities, I am fame, prosperity, fine, speech, memory, intelligence, courage, and forgiveness. Amongst the hymns in the Samaveda, know me to be the Brihatsama. Amongst poetic meters, I am the Gayatri. Of the 12 months of the Hindu calendar, I am Margashirsh, and of the season I am spring, which brings forth flowers. I am the gambling of the cheese, and the splendor of the splendid. I am the victory of the victorious, the resolve of the resolute, and the virtue of the virtuous. Amongst the descendants of Vrishni, I am Krishna, and amongst the Pandavas, I am Arjun. Know me to be Vedvyas amongst the sages, and Shukracharya amongst the great thinkers. I am just punishment amongst means of preventing lawlessness, and proper conduct amongst those who seek victory. Amongst secrets, I am silence, and in the wise, I am their wisdom. I am the generating seed of all living beings. O Arjun, no creature, moving or non-moving, can exist without me. There is no end to my divine manifestations, O conqueror of enemies. What I have declared to you is a mere sample of my infinite glories. Whatever you see as beautiful, glorious, or powerful, know it to spring from but a spark of my splendor. What need is there for all this detailed knowledge, O Arjun? Simply know that by one fraction of my being, I pervade and support this entire creation.
Radhe Radhe and welcome back. Thanks to all our participants for recitation and reading. And Nidhi ji, do you know something? Why is it said that why is Bhagavad Gita called a song if it is spoken?
I used to wonder, Kavita. I really don't know why it is, because it is written in shlokas, So I was thinking, why Song of God,
Yes. So, but if the audience knows the answer, please post your answer in the comment section below if you know it. If you don't, you can probably encourage your family and friends
Yes,
with help
sure.
them. Can get associated as well.
Yes.
I know why Bhagavad Gita is called a song, and I can reply back to Nidhi ji because she's
Yes.
still wondering why it is called. Bhagavad Gita is called a song of the Lord because it is spoken in rhyming meter called Anushatam. And yes, and it contains 32 syllables in each verse. The general theme is in 4 lines of 8 syllables each, and in particular verses, like in some of those verses, a Trishatak meter is used, which contains 4 lines of 11 syllables each.
Oh my
This
God.
is used in various poignant slokas in the Gita, including chapter 2, 8, 11, and so on. So many of those chapters have it. That is why it is called the song, and it's amazing to know
Kavita,
that.
I'm completely lost, This is beyond my intellect, Anushtup. Oh God, this I heard for the first time. So much reverence to the writer of Bhagavad Gita, Sage Vyasa.
Yes.
So guys, are you all ready for some fun? Let's have some trivia questions. What do you think?
Are there any prizes, Nidhi ji?
Of course, that is the thing. We have prizes.
Then
so
I will participate.
here is the question. Choose the 3 conditions which depict true happiness. And we do have some options or choices that you can select. So we are making it easier for you to win. So the first is desire to serve. A is desire to serve. B is eternal. C is should satisfy us. D is ever fresh. E is infinite in bliss. F is selflessness. So I would want to repeat it so that, there are plenty of things. So one is choose the 3 conditions which depict true happiness. Desire to serve is the first option. B is eternal. C is should satisfy us. D is ever fresh. And E is infinite in bliss. F is selflessness. So post your comments in YouTube channel of JK Yoga Academy. And the correct answer gets a prize. And please don't forget to share why do you love Gita. You love Gita because
I love Krishna. I love Krishna.
My sweet Krishna. Why do you love Gita? So.
ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ एकादशोऽध्यायः विश्वरूपदर्शनयोगः। अर्जुन उवाच मदनुग्रहाय परमं गुह्यमध्यात्मसंहितम् यत्त्वयोक्तं वचस्तेन मोहोऽयं विगतो मम। भवाप्ययौ हि भूतानां श्रुतौ विस्तरशो मया त्वत्तः कमलपत्राक्ष माहात्म्यमपि चाव्ययम्। एवमेतद्यथा तत्त्वम् आत्मानं परमेश्वर द्रष्टुमिच्छामि ते रूपम् ऐश्वरं पुरुषोत्तम। मन्यसे यदि तच्छक्यं मया द्रष्टुमिति प्रभो योगेश्वर ततो मे त्वं दर्शयात्मानमव्ययम्। श्रीभगवानुवाच पश्य मे पार्थरूपाणि शतशोऽथसहस्रशः नानाविधानि दिव्यानि
नानावर्णाकृतीनि च पश्यादित्यान् वसून् रुद्रान् अश्विनौ मरुतस्तथा बहून्यदृष्टपूर्वाणि पश्याश्चर्याणि भारत इहैकस्थं जगत्कृत्स्नम् पश्याद्य सचराचरम् मम देहे गुडाकेश यच्चान्यद्द्रष्टुमिच्छसि न तु मां शक्यसे द्रष्टुम् अनेनैव स्वचक्षुषा दिव्यं ददामि ते चक्षुः पश्य मे योगमैश्वरम् सञ्जय उवाच एवमुक्त्वा ततो राजन् महायोगेश्वरो हरिः दर्शयामास पार्थाय परमं रूपमीश्वरम् अनेकवक्त्रनयनम् अनेकाद्भुतदर्शनम् अनेकदिव्याभरणम् दिव्यानेकोद्यतायुधम् दिव्यमाल्याम्बरधरम् दिव्यगन्धानुलेपनम् सर्वाश्चर्यमयम् देवम् अनन्तम् विश्वतोमुखम् दिवि सूर्यसहस्रस्य भवेद्युगपदुत्थिता यदि भासदृशी सा स्यात् भासस्तस्य महात्मनः तत्रैकस्थं जगत्कृत्स्नम् प्रविभक्तमनेकधा अपश्यद्देवदेवस्य शरीरे पाण्डवस्तदा ततः स विस्मयाविष्टः हृष्टरोमा धनञ्जयः प्रणम्य शिरसा देवम् कृताञ्जलिरभाषत अर्जुन उवाच पश्यामि देवांस्तव देवदेहे सर्वांस्तथा भूतविशेषसङ्घान् ब्रह्माणमीशं कमलासनस्थम् ऋषींश्च सर्वानुरगांश्च दिव्यान् अनेकबाहूदरवक्त्रनेत्रम् पश्यामि त्वां सर्वतोऽनन्तरूपम् नान्तो न मध्यं न पुनस्तवादिम् पश्यामि विश्वेश्वर विश्वरूप किरीटिनं गदिनं चक्रिणं च
तेजोराशिं सर्वतो दीप्तिमन्तम्
पश्यामि त्वां दुर्निरीक्ष्यं समन्तात् दीप्तानलार्कद्युतिमप्रमेयम्
त्वमक्षरं परमं वेदितव्यम्
त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं निधानम् त्वमव्ययः शाश्वतः धर्मगोप्ता सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे अनादिमध्यान्तमनन्तवीर्यम् अनन्तबाहुं शशिसूर्यनेत्रम् पश्यामि त्वां दीप्तहुताशवक्त्रम् स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं तपन्तम् ध्यावा पृथिव्योरिदमन्तरं हि व्याप्तं त्वयैकेन दिशश्च सर्वाः दृष्ट्वाद्भुतं रूपमुग्रं तवेदं लोकत्रयं प्रव्यथितं महात्मन् अमीहित्वां सुरसङ्गा विशन्ति केचिद्भीताः प्राञ्जलयो गृह्णन्ति स्वस्तीत्युक्त्वा महर्षिसिद्धसङ्गाः स्तुवन्ति त्वां स्तुतिभिः पुष्कलाभिः रुद्रादित्या वसवो ये च साध्याः विश्वेशिनौ मरुतश्चोष्मपाश्च गन्धर्वयक्षासुरसिद्धसङ्गाः वीक्षन्ते त्वां विस्मिताश्चैव सर्वे रूपं महत्ते बहुवक्त्रनेत्रम् महाबाहो बहुबाहूरुपादम् बहूदरं बहुदंष्ट्राकरालं दृष्ट्वा लोकाः प्रव्यथितास्तथाहम् नभस्पृशं दीप्तमनेकवर्णं व्यात्ताननं दीप्तविशालनेत्रम् दृष्ट्वा हि त्वां प्रव्यथितान्तरात्मा धृतिं न विन्दामि शमं च विष्णो दंष्ट्राकरालानि च ते मुखानि दृष्ट्वैव कालानलसन्निभानि दिशो न जाने न लभे च शर्म प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास अमी च त्वां धृतराष्ट्रस्य पुत्राः सर्वे सहैवावनिपालसङ्घैः भीष्मो द्रोणः सूतपुत्रस्तथासौ सहास्मदीयैरपि योधमुख्यैः वक्त्राणि ते त्वरमाणा विशन्ति दंष्ट्राकरालानि भयानकानि केचिद्विलग्ना दशनान्तरेषु सन्दृश्यन्ते चूर्णितैरुत्तमाङ्गैः यथा नदीनां बहवोऽम्बुवेगाः समुद्रमेवाभिमुखा द्रवन्ति तथा तवामि नरलोकवीराः विशन्ति वक्त्राण्यभिविज्वलन्ति यथा प्रदीप्तं ज्वलनं पतङ्गाः विशन्ति नाशाय समृद्धवेगाः तथैव नाशाय विशन्ति लोकाः तवापि वक्त्राणि समृद्धवेगाः लेलीह्यसे ग्रसमानः समन्तात् लोकान् समग्रान् वदनैर्ज्वलद्भिः तेजोभिरापूर्य जगत् समग्रम् भासस्तवोग्राः प्रतपन्ति विष्णो आख्याहि मे को भवानुग्ररूपः नमोऽस्तु ते देववर प्रसीद विज्ञातुमिच्छामि भवन्तमाद्यम् न हि प्रजानामि तव प्रवृत्तिम् श्रीभगवानुवाच कालोऽस्मि लोकक्षयकृत् प्रवृद्धः लोकान् समाहर्तुमिह प्रवृत्तः ऋतेऽपि त्वां न भविष्यन्ति सर्वे येव स्थिताः प्रत्यनीकेषु योधाः तस्मात् त्वमुत्तिष्ठ यशो लभस्व जित्वा शत्रून् भुङ्क्ष्व राज्यं समृद्धम् मयैवैते निहताः पूर्वमेव निमित्तमात्रं भव सव्यसाचिन् द्रोणं च भीष्मं च जयद्रथं च कर्णं तथान्यानपि योधवीरान् मया हतान् स्वं जहिमा व्यतिष्ठाः युध्यस्व जेतासि रणे सपत्नान् संजय उवाच एतत् श्रुत्वा वचनं केशवस्य कृताञ्जलिर्वेपमानः किरीटी नमस्कृत्वा भूय एवाह कृष्णम् सगद्गदं भीतः प्रणम्य अर्जुन उवाच स्थाने हृषीकेश तव प्रकीर्त्या जगत्प्रहृष्यत्यनुरज्यते च रक्षांसि भीतानि दिशो द्रवन्ति सर्वे नमस्यन्ति च सिद्धसङ्घाः कस्माच्च तेन न मेरन्महात्मन् गरीयसे ब्रह्मणोऽप्यादिकर्त्रे अनन्तदेवेश जगन्निवास त्वमक्षरं सदसत्तत्परं यत् त्वमादिदेवः पुरुषः पुराणः त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं निधानम् वेत्तासि वेद्यं च परं च धाम त्वया ततं विश्वमनन्तरूपम् वायुर्यमोऽग्निर्वरुणः शशाङ्कः प्रजापतिस्त्वं प्रपितामहश्च नमो नमस्तेऽस्तु सहस्रकृत्वः पुनश्च भूयोऽपि नमो नमस्ते नमः पुरस्तादथ पृष्ठतस्ते नमोऽस्तु ते सर्वत एव सर्व अनन्तवीर्यामितविक्रमस्त्वं सर्वं समाप्नोषि ततोऽसि सर्वः सखेति मत्वा प्रसभं यदुक्तं हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति अजानता महिमानं तवेदं मया प्रमादात् प्रणयेन वापि यच्चापहासार्थमसत्कृतोऽसि विहारशय्यासनभोजनेषु एकोऽथवाप्यच्युत तत्समक्षम् तत्क्षामये त्वामहमप्रमेयम् पितासि लोकस्य चराचरस्य त्वमस्य पूज्यस्य गुरुर्गरीयान् न त्वत्समोऽस्त्यभ्यधिकः कुतोऽन्यः लोकत्रयेऽप्यप्रतिमप्रभाव तस्मात् प्रणम्य प्रणिधाय कायं प्रसादये त्वामहमीशमीड्यम् पितेव पुत्रस्य सखेव सख्युः प्रियः प्रियायार्हसि देव सोढुम् अदृष्टपूर्वं हृषितोऽस्मि दृष्ट्वा भयेन च प्रव्यथितं मनो मे तं देव मे दर्शय देवरूपं प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास किरीटिनं गदिनं चक्रहस्तम् इच्छामि त्वां द्रष्टुमहं तथैव तेनैव रूपेण चतुर्भुजेन सहस्रबाहो भव विश्वमूर्ते। श्रीभगवानुवाच मया प्रसन्नेन तवार्जुनेदं रूपं परं दर्शितमात्मयोगात् तेजोमयं विश्वमनन्तमाद्यं यन्मे त्वदन्येन न दृष्टपूर्वम् न वेदयज्ञाध्ययनैर्न दानैः न च क्रियाभिर्न तपोभिरुग्रैः एवं रूपः शक्य अहं नृलोके द्रष्टुं त्वदन्येन कुरु प्रवीर माते व्यथा मा च विमूढभावाः
दृष्ट्वा रूपं घोरमीदृङ्ममेदम्
व्यपेतभिः प्रीतमनाः पुनस्त्वं तदेव मे रूपमिदं प्रपश्य। सञ्जय उवाच इत्यर्जुनं वासुदेवस्ततोक्त्वा स्वकं रूपं दर्शयामास भूयः आश्वासयामास च भीतमेनं भूत्वा पुनः सौम्य वपुर्महात्मा। अर्जुन उवाच दृष्ट्वेदं मानुषं रूपं तव सौम्यं जनार्दन इदानीमस्मि संवृत्तः सचेताः प्रकृतिं गतः। श्रीभगवानुवाच सुदुर्दर्शमिदं रूपं दृष्टवानसि यन्मम देवा अप्यस्य रूपस्य नित्यं दर्शनकाङ्क्षिणः। नाहं वेदैर्न तपसा न दानेन न चेज्यया शक्य एवं विधो द्रष्टुं दृष्टवानसि मां यथा। भक्त्या त्वनन्यया शक्यः अहमेवं विधोऽर्जुन ज्ञातुं द्रष्टुं च तत्त्वेन प्रवेष्टुं च परन्तप मत्कर्म कृन्मत्परमः मद्भक्तः सङ्गवर्जितः निर्वैरः सर्वभूतेषु यः स मामेति पाण्डव। ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे विश्वरूपदर्शनयोगो नाम एकादशोऽध्यायः। सर्वं श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।
Chapter 11, Vishwaroop Darshan Yog. Yog through beholding the cosmic form of God. Arjun said, having heard the supremely confidential spiritual knowledge which you have revealed out of compassion to me, my illusion is now dispelled. I have heard from you in detail about the appearance and disappearance of all living beings, O lotus-eyed one, and also about your eternal majesty. O Supreme Lord, you are precisely what you declare yourself to be. Now I desire to see your divine cosmic form, O greatest of persons. O Lord of all mystic powers, if you think I am strong enough to behold it, then kindly reveal that imperishable cosmic form to me. The Supreme Lord said, behold, O Parth, my hundreds and thousands of wonderful forms of various shapes and sizes and colors. Behold in me, O Sian of the Bharatas, the 12 sons of Aditi, the 8 Vasus, the 11 Rudras, the twin Ashwini Kumars, as well as the 49 Maruts, and many more marvels never revealed before. Behold now, Arjun, the entire universe with everything moving and non-moving assembled together in my universal form. Whatever else you wish to see, observe it all within this universal form. But you cannot see my cosmic form with those physical eyes of yours. Therefore, I grant you divine vision. Behold my majestic opulence. Sanjay said, O king, having spoken thus, the Supreme Lord of Yoga, Sri Krishna, displayed his divine and opulent form to Arjun. In that cosmic form, Arjun saw unlimited faces and eyes, decorated with many celestial ornaments and wielding many kinds of divine weapons. He wore many garlands on his body and was anointed with many sweet-smelling heavenly fragrances. He revealed himself as the wonderful and infinite Lord, whose face is everywhere. If 1,000 suns were to blaze forth together in the sky, they would not match the splendor of that great form. There Arjun could see the totality of the entire universe established in one place, in that body of the God of gods. Then Arjun, full of wonder and with hair standing on end, bowed his head with folded hands before the Lord and addressed him thus. Arjun said, O Shri Krishna, I behold within your body all the gods and hosts of different beings. I see Brahma seated on the lotus flower. I see Shiv, all the sages, and all the celestial serpents. I see your infinite form in every direction, with countless arms, stomachs, faces, and eyes. O Lord of the universe, whose form is the universe itself, I do not see in you any beginning, middle, or end. I see your form adorned with a crown and armed with the club and disc, shining everywhere as the abode of splendor. It is hard to look upon you in the blazing fire of your effulgence, which is radiating like the sun in all directions. I recognize you as the supreme, imperishable being, the ultimate truth to be known by the scriptures. You are the support of all creation. You are the eternal protector of Sanatan Dharma, the eternal religion, and you are the everlasting, supreme, divine personality.
You are without beginning, middle, or end. Your power has no limits. Your arms are infinite. The sun and the moon are like your eyes, and the fire is like your mouth. I see you warming the entire creation by your radiance. The space between heaven and earth and all directions are pervaded by you alone. Seeing your wondrous and terrible form, I see the three worlds trembling in fear, O greatest of all beings. All the celestial gods are taking your shelter by entering into you. In awe, some are praising you with folded hands. The great sages and perfected beings are extolling you with auspicious hymns and profuse prayers. The Rudras, Adityas, Vasus, Satyas, Vishvadevas, Ashwini Kumars, Maruts, ancestors, Gandharvas, Yakshas, Asuras, and Siddhas are all beholding you in wonder. O mighty Lord, in veneration of your magnificent form with its many mouths, eyes, arms, thighs, legs, stomachs, and terrifying teeth, all the worlds are terror-stricken, and so am I. O Lord Vishnu, seeing your form touching the sky, effulgent in many colors, with mouths wide open and enormous blazing eyes, my heart is trembling with fear. I have lost all courage and peace of mind. Having seen your many mouths bearing your terrible teeth, resembling the raging fire at the time of annihilation, I forget where I am and do not know where to go. O Lord of Lords, you are the shelter of the universe. Please have mercy on me. I see the sons of Dhritarashtra along with their allied kings, including Bhishma, Dronacharya, Karna, and also the generals from our side rushing headlong into your fearsome mouths. I see some with their heads smashed between your terrible teeth. As many waves of rivers flowing rapidly into the ocean, so are all the great warriors entering into your blazing mouths. As moths rush with great speed into the fire to perish, so are all these armies entering with great speed into your mouths. With your fiery tongues, you're licking up the host of living beings on all sides and devouring them with your blazing mouths. O Vishnu, you are scorching the entire universe with the fierce, all-pervading rays of your effulgence. Tell me who you are, so fierce of form. O God of gods, I bow before you. Please bestow your mercy on me. You who existed before all creation, I wish to know who you are, for I do not comprehend your nature and workings. The Supreme Lord said, I am mighty time, the source of destruction that comes forth to annihilate the worlds. Even without your participation, the warriors arrayed in the opposing army shall cease to exist. Therefore, arise and attain honor, conquer your foes and enjoy prosperous rulership. These warriors stand already slain by me, and you will only be an instrument of my work, O expert archer. Dronacharya, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and other brave warriors have already been killed by me. So slay them without being disturbed. Just fight, and you will be victorious over your enemies in battle. Sanjay said. Hearing these words of Keshav, Arjun trembled with dread. With palms joined, he bowed before Sri Krishna and spoke in faltering voice, overwhelmed with fear. Arjun said, O master of the senses, it is but apt that the universe rejoices in giving you praise and is enamored by you. Demons flee fearfully from you in all directions, and the hosts of the perfected saints bow to you.
O Great One, who are even greater than Brahma, the original creator, why should they not bow to you, O limitless One, O Lord of the Devatas, O refuge of the universe? You are the imperishable reality beyond both the manifest and the non-manifest. You are the primeval God and the original divine personality. You are the sole resting place of this universe. You are both the knower and the object of knowledge. You are the supreme abode. O possessor of the infinite forms, you alone pervade the entire universe. You are Vayu, Yamraj, Agni, Varun, and Chandra. You are the creator Brahma and the great-grandfather of all beings. I offer my salutations unto you 1,000 times, again and yet again. O Lord of infinite power, my salutations to you from the front and the rear, and indeed all the sides. You possess infinite valor and the might and the pervade everything, and thus you are everything. Thinking of you as my friend, I presumptuously address you as O Krishna, O Yadav, O my dear mate. I am ignorant of your majesty showing negligence and undue affection. And if jestfully I treat you with disrespect, while playing, resting, sitting, eating, when alone or before others, for all that I crave is forgiveness. You are the Father of the entire universe, of all moving and non-moving things. You are the most deserving of worship and supreme spiritual master. When there is no equal to you in all these three worlds, then who can possibly be greater than you, O possessor of the incomparable power? Therefore, O adorable Lord, bowing deeply and prostrating before you, I implore you for your grace. As a father tolerates his son, a friend forgives his friend, and a lover pardons the beloved. Please forgive me for all my offenses. Having seen your universal form that I have never seen before, I feel great joy, and yet my mind trembles with fear. You have mercy on me. Please have mercy on me, and again show me your pleasing form, O God of gods, O abode of the universe. O thousand-armed one, thou you are the embodiment of all creation. I wish to see you in your four-armed form, carrying the mace, the disc, and wearing the crown. The blessed Lord said, Arjun, being pleased with you by your Yog Maya power, I gave you a vision of my resplendent, unlimited, and primal cosmic form. No one before you has ever seen it. Not by the study of Vedas, nor by the performance of sacrifice, rituals, or charity, nor even by practicing severe austerities. Has any mortal ever seen what you have seen, O best of the Kuru warriors? Be neither afraid nor bewildered on seeing this terrible form of mine. Be free from fear. With a cheerful heart, behold me once again in my personal form. Sanjay said, having spoken thus, the compassionate son of Vasudeva displayed his personal four-armed form again. And then he further consoled the frightened Arjun by assuming his gentle two-armed form. Arjun said, O Sri Krishna, seeing your gentle human form, I have regained my composure and my mind is restored to normal. The Supreme Lord said, this form of mine you are seeing is exceedingly difficult to behold. Even the celestial gods are eager to see it. Neither by the study of the Vedas nor by the penance, charity, or fire sacrifices can I be seen as you have seen me. O Arjun, my unalloyed devotion alone can be known as I am, standing before you. Thereby, on receiving my divine vision, or scorched of force, one can enter into union with me. Those who perform all their duties for my sake, who depend upon me and are devoted to me, who are free from attachment and are without malice towards all being, such devotees certainly come to me.
Radhe Radhe everyone, that was such an emotional and devotional recitation as well as reading. I hope all of you are just soaking the bliss and the divinity around. It definitely feels that Hari and Guru is throughout there in this event. So wanted to take a moment to thank our Yajmans, our Pramukh Yajmans for this entire week-long event are Harish Rangacharya ji, Surya Prakash Ponnada ji, Narendra Kumar Sharanam ji, Madhu Chanda ji, and Shiksha Chetri ji. Moving on to our Mahayajmans. Our Mukhya Yajmans, Dimanshu Parekh ji, Kamna and Vishal Kuka, Vrinda Dhas and family. Our Yajmans for one day, Padmavati Kumaraju ji, Gayatri Narayan, Tripti Lagad, Raviranjan Pathak, Bishaka Sengupta ji and Uday Kumar ji. Our Gita Parayan Yajman for one chapter, Amit Kaddam ji and Shashi Verma ji. If you are interested, you are welcome to become an Yajman and you can please visit jkyog.org/Gita Festival. So we will now continue and next we are going to do the chapter 12 reading and recitation as well today, followed by a very special pragmatic wisdom from Gita session on the science of work from Gita by Dr. Aditya Sharma ji, a very, very beautiful session. So stay tuned for it.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you all the participants of International Gita Festival. It is only because of you that we are able to make this online event such a huge success. Our special thanks to our platinum sponsor, Madhu Reddy ji, for his generosity. Really appreciate it. Now, are we ready for the answer for the question?
Yes, Kavita, come on, you have to tell us what the answer is.
Okay, let me repeat the question very quickly. 3 conditions which depict true happiness and The answer is, the first one is eternal, then the next is ever fresh, and the third option is infinite in bliss. So option B, D, and E. Those are the correct answers.
Wow. Kavita, it seems like everything is the right answer, but yeah, I mean, these three are is the answer, Yeah.
What do we have? What do we have next, Nidhi? What is
So,
next?
Kavita, next coming up is a very, very entertaining enactment by Arna Jaggi, followed by a testimonial and a special talk by Aditya Ji, our JK Yoga Academy instructor. And the topic is Science of Work from the Gita, Karma Yoga. So stay tuned, folks.
So we will see you back. Once you come back from the session, we'll be here.
Hi Arno, Papa is back from office. What did my beta do today?
Pranam, Papa. Today I was reading about Karma Yoga in the Mahabharata. I was just thinking about that.
Arno, I have told you so many times not to read about Karma Yoga. If you really want to learn something, try to learn English Yoga, Math Yoga or Science Yoga. Reading those things, learning about those things will help you find a nice job in future, not Karma Yoga. Can you please stop reading about these things?
Okay.
Otherwise, I will be really disappointed, beta. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh no, my dad doesn't know the importance of Karma Yoga. Hey Bhagwan, please tell my dad some way to know the importance of Karma Yoga and understand why it's important.
Oh, my devotee is calling me with true devotion. I must answer her. I shall replace Arna's soul with Arjun's and her dad with Krishna's so they can both properly learn what Karma Yoga is.
Pranam, Madhav.
Yashashvi Bhava Arjun.
What is the real purpose of life, my lord?
That's a very good question, Arjun. The real purpose of life is to fixate your mind on God all the time.
But how can we fixate our mind on God all the times at the same time as doing various works for our survival?
That is true, Arjun, but then for that you need to understand Karma Yoga, the yoga of action.
Can you explain it to me?
Absolutely. Whosoever has come to this world, they cannot stay without actions even for a second. We are talking to each other, that's an action. People have been given various jobs to make their living, they are all doing actions. Sleeping is also an action. So like I said, nobody can stay without action even for a second. But the true souls are the ones who understand this, but they try to do their external job diligently, but internally they're always attached to me. They do not care about the results of their actions.
Can you help me understand this a bit better?
Absolutely. Whatever we do, you should try to do that for the love of God. For example, you try to fight with Kauravas externally, but deep within you, internally you should think that I'm doing this for the love of God. Superior souls, they know that true knowledge is to fixate your mind in God all the time. The purpose of their life is to love God, unite with God. But even after knowing this knowledge, they do not stop doing their physical job, because there are so many common people, ignorant people who are looking up to them. If those superior souls will stop doing their work, those common people will also stop doing their work, even when they are not supposed to. Even I am doing my job properly to set an example for the mankind.
Why do we commit sins, Madhav?
That's another good question, Arjun. People commit sins because of desires. Desires cloud their mind from the true knowledge, and people, they start living for the pleasure of their senses. When a desire gets fulfilled, that leads to another desire. And when a desire does not get fulfilled, people get angry, and that causes them to commit sins.
How do we get rid of desires and stop developing them?
The only way to do that is to keep following your Karma Yoga religiously. Devote all your actions for the love of God. Don't worry about the action. Don't worry about results of your actions. If something good happens in your life, don't think that it happened because of your good actions in past. Similarly, if something bad happens in past, it's not because of you did something bad. Don't worry about the results of your actions. If people can do this thing, if they can follow the Karam Yoga religiously, they will definitely be successful in achieving the purpose of their life, which is to unite with God. Otherwise, they will go through the cycle of endless life and death.
Okay, Madhav, I will fight the Kauravas externally, but internally I'll always attach my mind to you.
May you always be successful, Arjun. My blessings are always with you. But always remember this thing. Karmanyavadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phal heturbhu ma te sangotva karmani.
Thereafter, they all believed in Karam Yoga and lived a very happy life, always remembering God. You should also follow Karam Yoga religiously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Radhe Radhe, I'm Meghna. I want to sincerely thank JK Yog and the Gita Fest team for organizing the wonderful competition for kids, adults and families. It provided tremendous opportunities for my kids to enter the digital poster and creative writing competitions. Creating the digital poster allowed them to think about what they've learned in Bhagavad Gita and what it means to them and how to convey it to others in a fun way. The creative writing provided great topics for them for essays on how to implement what they have learned from Gita into practice. We also did a family recitation of chapter 12. My youngest son had learned it over the winter break, so it was a good project for us to do. I also want to thank the Houston JK Yog team for reminding everyone to sign up and participate in the Gita Fest. Overall, it was a great experience and we look forward to participating in more such fun activities in the future. Radhe Radhe.
Communities have existed ever since humankind has existed. When these communities are of like-minded people, they enable the strengthening of our resolve on the path and inspiration to our mind to move ahead with speed. This is a divine community.
ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ द्वादशोऽध्यायः भक्तियोगः। अर्जुन उवाच एवं सततयुक्ता ये भक्तास्त्वां पर्युपासते ये चाप्यक्षरमव्यक्तम् तेषां के योगवित्तमाः। श्रीभगवानुवाच मय्यावेश्य मनो ये मां नित्ययुक्ता उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेताः ते मे युक्ततमा मताः। ये त्वक्षरमनिर्देश्यम् अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते सर्वत्र घमचिन्त्यं च कूटस्थमचलं ध्रुवम् सन्नियम्येन्द्रियग्रामं सर्वत्र समबुद्धयः ते प्राप्नुवन्ति मामेव सर्वभूतहिते रताः।
क्लेशोऽधिकतरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तासक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखम् देहवद्भिरवाप्यते ये तु सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्पराः अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्त उपासते
तेषामहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्युसंसारसागरात् भवामि न चिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशितचेतसाम् मय्येव मन आधस्त्व मयि बुद्धिं निवेशय निवसिष्यसि मय्येव अत ऊर्ध्वं न संशयः।
अथ चित्तं समादातुं यशक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततः माम् इच्छाप्तुं धनञ्जय अभ्यासेऽभ्यासमर्थोऽसि मत्कर्म परमो भव मदर्थमापि कर्माणि कुर्वन् सिद्धिमवाप्स्यसि अथैतदाप्यशक्तोऽसि कर्तुं मद्योगमाश्रितः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागं त्वत्तः कुरु यथात्मवान् श्रेयो हि ज्ञानमभ्यासात् ज्ञानाद्धनायं विशिष्यते दानात् कारं फलत्यागः त्यागाच्चन्तिरनन्तरम्
अद्वेष्टा सर्वभूतानां मैत्रः करुण एव च निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः समदुःखसुखः क्षमी सन्तुष्टः सततं योगी यतात्मा धृढनिश्चयः मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोकः लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैः मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः अनपेक्षः शुचिर्दाक्षः उदासीनो गतव्यथः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः
यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न काङ्क्षति शुभाशुभपरित्यागी भक्तिमान्यः स मे प्रियः समशत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु समसङ्गविवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतस्थिरमतिः भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः ये तु धर्म्यामृतमिदं यथोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्दधाना मत्परमाः भक्तास्तेऽतीव मे प्रियाः। ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे भक्तियोगो नाम 12ोऽध्यायः। श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।
Radhe Radhe, Chapter 12, Bhakti Yoga, the Yoga of Devotion. Arjuna inquired, between those who are steadfastly devoted to your personal form and those who worship the formless Brahman, who do you consider to be more perfect in yoga? The blessed Lord said, those who fix their mind on me and always engage in my devotion with steadfast faith, I consider them to be the best yogis. But those who worship the formless aspect of the absolute truth, the imperishable, the undefinable, the unmanifest, the all-pervading, the unthinkable, the unmovable, the immovable, by restraining their senses and being even-minded everywhere, such persons engaged in the welfare of all beings also attain me. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifest, the path of realization is full of tribulations. Worship of the unmanifest is exceedingly difficult for embodied beings. But those who dedicate all their actions to me, regarding me as the supreme goal, worshipping me and meditating on me with exclusive devotion, O Path, I swiftly deliver them from the ocean of birth and death, for their consciousness is united with me. Fix your mind on me alone and surrender your intellect to me. Thereupon you will always live in me. For this there is no doubt. If you are unable to fix your mind steadily on me, O Arjuna, then practice remembering me with devotion while constantly restraining the mind from worldly affairs. If you cannot practice remembering me with devotion, then just try to work for me, thus performing devotional service to me. You shall achieve the stage of perfection. If you are unable to even work for me in devotion, then try to renounce the fruit of your actions and be situated in the self. Better than mechanical practice is knowledge. Better than knowledge is meditation. Better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of actions. For peace immediately follows such renunciation. Those devotees are very clear to me who are free from malice toward all living beings, who are friendly and compassionate. They are free from attachment to possessions and egotism, equipoised in happiness and distress, and ever forgiving. They are ever contented, steadily united with me in devotion, self-dedicated to me in mind and intellect. Those who are not a source of annoyance to anyone, and who in turn are not agitated by anyone, who are equal in pleasure and pain, and free from fear and anxiety. Such devotees of mine are very dear to me. Those who are indifferent to worldly gain, externally and internally pure, skillful without cares, untroubled and free from selfishness,
In all undertakings, such devotees of mine are very dear to me. Those who neither rejoice in mundane pleasures nor despair in worldly sorrows, who neither lament for any loss or nor hanker for any gain, who renounce both good and evil deeds, such persons who are full of devotions are very dear to me. Those who are alike to friend and foe, equipoise in honor and dishonor, cold and heat, joy and sorrow, and are free from all unfavorable associations. Those who take praise and reproach alike, who are given to silent contemplation, content with what comes their way, without attachment to the place of residence, whose intellect is firmly fixed in me, and who are full of devotion to me. Such persons are very dear to me. Those who honor this nectar of wisdom declared here have faith in me and are devoted and intent on me as the supreme goal. They are exceedingly dear to me. Radhe Radhe. They are exceedingly dear to me. Radhe Radhe. They are exceedingly dear to me. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe everyone. Welcome back. I know all of us are getting really moved by such devotional words from Sri Krishna himself, and so beautifully recited and read by all our devotees across the globe. So just want to take a moment to thank our Pramukh Yajmans, Harish Rangacharya ji, Surya Prakash Punada ji, Narendra Kumar Sharanam ji, Madhu Chanda ji, Shiksha Chetri ji. Our Mukhya Yajmans, Nimanshu Parekh ji, Kamna and Vishal Kuka and family, Vrinda Das and family. Our Yajmans for one day, we got few more added now. So Lata Sampat Kumar ji and family, Vinita Kushalavan and family, Padmavati Komaraju ji and family, Gayatri Narayan ji, Tripti Lagad ji, Raviranjan Pathak ji, Bisaka ji Sen Gupta and Uday Kumar ji. Our Gita Pharain Ejmans for one chapter, Amit Kadam ji, Shashi Verma ji, Kabita Sahu ji, Suja Bala ji, Karun Deep Yadav ji, Venkat Rao and Radha Krishna Murthy Upuluri ji. Thank you to all these Ejmans. And our I Love Gita slogan winner for day 3 of this beautiful International Gita Festival event. The winner is Meena Sharma ji, and her quote is, I love Gita because after 5,000 years, every word is a guidance for life. It is a manual to run day-to-day life in the highest state of mind. Congratulations, Meena ji. And our day 3 trivia winner is Supriya ji. And the correct answer for yesterday's trivia question was Sanjay, Hanumanji, and Barbaric. All 3 of them listened to the Bhagavad Gita for the first time along with Arjun. So let's continue with the rest of the program. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. I will start with the prayer before we start our session today. Vancha kalpataru bhayascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. He Krishna karuna sindhur deen bandhu jagat pate gopesh gopika kantam radha kantam namostute. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Nam ch kevalam talau naste naste katiranyatha tapt kantam gaurangi radhe vrindavaneshwari vrishabhanu sute devi pranamami hari priye Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parbrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansa Chanor Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru. So today we are going to speak on the topic of Karma Yoga, the science of work. So I have a small talk about that. Let's begin. Can we move to the first slide? So everybody, each one of us in the world are acting and doing some karma or the other. So one of the questions in the material world we'll have is, why should we work? And is there any purpose of this work? And if you look around, most of us are working on something or the other. And so the Bhagavad Gita says, well, is it possible not to act or do no karma? The Gita says each one of us has to act. We are forced to act as embodied beings. We will be forced to act because of the impulses born out of the material nature. So really, nobody can refrain from doing something or the other, even for a moment. And also, it is mentioned that you cannot reach the goal of God realization by abstaining from work or through renunciation. So action is needed to actually continue working in this world. Now, most of us work in our professions, in our job, because we are trying to kind of sustain our lives, sustain our family life, and do your obligatory duties. A part of that is to make life more comfortable, provide for our family, make it more meaningful. And in all of that process, we are also at some point searching for what is happiness and peace. So what the Gita is telling us is, because we are in the embodied self, we are the embodied beings, we will eventually have to continue to work all the time. Now, we need to realize, though, that the goal of life is not just to survive and not just to fulfill our obligatory duties, but in the process of doing so, realize the ultimate purpose of this human form, which is to realize God himself and attain him. So the next slide, we'll kind of get into what is karma, why should we do karma, as we discussed, and then in what mode will we do that. So what is karma? The word karma is used as a blanket word, pretty high level word with multiple meanings. One of the meanings of karma, straight meaning, direct meaning, is action. Any action we perform, that would be called karma. Karma is also used to mean as the consequence of action. So sometimes it's used interchangeably to mean that you will reap the fruits of your actions. And so that's also part of your karma. Okay, so karma can be used for action as well as the consequence of action together. So really, and then as you can see in this picture, you may have seen already, it's a very famous cartoon that shows you the effect of karma as a domino effect, where an action creates kind of vibrations or ripples, or in this case, dominoes falling, and they'll come back to you in the circle of life, come back to you in your as a consequence in your own life. So that's what that picture is showing us. So now when we are talking about karma, a very genuine and valid question would be, do we have choice in doing karma? Is everything already pre-decided, or is there some choice there? Is this destiny, or is it free? Is it free will? And the answer is not so straightforward for this. We we can think of it, the simplest answer to say is both. But the way it works is there are things that have been designed, like pre-designed for us. I give the example of sandbox. We have been given the sandbox to work within. So we are limited by the sandbox itself, but within the sandbox, we have freedom to act. One example I give quite often about this is like being a stage play, right? In the play, the writer writes the script, the director directs it, the stage managers kind of decide the placing of the actors, the creation of the scene. So a lot of things are pre-designed, right? Or pre-decided. However, how the actor is going to perform is still the free choice of the actor, right? Different actors under the same situation will have different take on that role and interpret it differently and then act it out differently. So the skill with which the actor performs his or her role is still the free choice. And similarly, in the world, we have been given some pre-designed situations, but how we act will be based on our understanding of those situations and our decisions made in the influence of gunas and all of those other factors that will inform us to choose the next course of action. And that will come back to us as consequence at some point as sukha, which we consider favorable, or dukkha, which we consider unfavorable outcomes. So the result of past actions done with free choice help determine our destiny. So this predefined situation that I talked about is not coming randomly to us. This is also based on the destiny that was created by us by our previous actions. So actions performed in free choice in the past usually create our situation for the future. So at every moment, we are both reaping the fruits of our action as well as creating new karmas by our actions. So this is a time to ask any questions.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Aditya ji. Wow, it was a very beautiful perspective. Actually, I'm Mrinal from Canada and I have a question. Why do we get different results for equal efforts?
Thank you for that question, Mrinalji. So that's a very logical question. Why do we get different results for equal amount of efforts? So like I said in my previous slide, there is a complex interaction of destiny and free choice. So I actually have the next slide, which kind of tries to address that question. And I'll try to talk about that and explain that on that slide. Yeah. So a little bit from the science background. So I try to kind of think things visually. So I've tried to show this picture. And what I have tried to show is how there's an interaction going on between destiny and your free effort, choice efforts. So there's something called sanchit karma. Sanchit karmas are those karmas that we have already done, previous actions in this life and previous lives that have not yet borne fruit, right? The actions that have borne fruit, they exhaust themselves. But the actions that have not borne fruit are called sanchit karma, okay? From that pile of sanchit karmas, a few karmas are chosen as a prarabdha for that life. Okay, so we have millions and millions of lifetimes, and out of those there are billions and trillions of karmas we have done. Out of that, a result of few of those karmas is chosen as what is called prarabdha or destiny for that life. Now that is kind of the factors that is the sandbox I was talking about, in which the family you are born, what kind of parents, what kind of education, what kind of financial situation, right? That is more like your prarabdha. And there is, from that prarabdha is also created what we call bhagya, right? Which we call sometimes luck, bhagya. Now, because your prarabdha and because of your karmas, all of them are not beneficial or good karmas, and all of them are not bad or negative karmas. It's a combination. So we get some results from our favorable karmas, and sometimes we get results from our unfavorable karmas. So in any particular situation, when we are acting on some particular some particular outcome, it's a complex interaction of those favorable and unfavorable karmas coming as forces around us. I call them luck, environmental forces, whatever way you can think of. And those forces can either align with your effort or oppose it. Okay? So in this picture here, I have shown you that the karm phal is that oval, it says karm phal or the result. But you can see that there's a complex interaction going on between the environmental forces or bhagya with your prayas, which is your effort. At the bottom is prayas or karm, and the top is the environmental forces, both favorable and unfavorable. Now you see, depending on that particular circumstance and situation, it is not that your effort is not meaningful. Effort is important. Now I say this is result is equal to result of the effort equals the vector sum of forces. So I don't know if you have some background in science or physics, but even if you don't, that's fine, because what I'm trying to show here is when the karma and your environmental forces align together, they add up. So even with small effort, you will get the outcome you want, the favorable outcome. Whereas when they don't align or when they are opposing, then it depends on that complex interaction of how much effort and how much of the environmental forces are there. So if the environmental forces are very, very negative and very much against you, even full effort will not give you the result you want. And sometimes the answer is somewhere in the middle. Somewhere part of the karma will give you the effort, part of it will not give you the effort. So it's a very complex interaction going on. So this picture hopefully is trying to explain how all of these things come together to give us the karma phal or the result of that action. Hopefully that was helpful.
Thank you very much, Aditya ji. Very beautifully explained. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you. So let's continue. So what this is telling us is that the outcome of actions is never fully in our control. We can do our prayas or effort, and then the result we can leave to the circumstances or God or our destiny, whichever way we want to interpret it. But our effort is still important. It is not that effort is not important, but the final outcome is not always in our control. Let's go to the next slide. So then when we know that we do have choice in doing our karma, then the next question is, how do we choose what is our karma? How do you choose your right karma? So in the Bhagavad Gita, in many places, but in chapter 3 specifically, it's also mentioned in chapter 18, Lord Krishna says, it is better to perform one's natural prescribed duty, even if it has got faults in it, than to perform somebody else's duty. Okay, so even if you can do it perfectly, it is better to be yourself, and it is preferable to die in the discharge of one's duty than to follow somebody else's path. Why does he say that? Well, what he means here is each of us is composed of this combination of gunas. So where do the gunas come from? Well, if you have probably listened to other sessions, we have talked about the reason for our existence is Prakriti, which is a power of God, which is working through Maya. And the Prakriti is formed of 3 gunas, Sattva-gun, Tamo-gun, and Rajo-gun. So think of Prakriti as a combination of threads. Okay, when you're creating a cloth, you weave the threads together. So think of the threads are Sattva-gun thread, Rajo-gun thread, Tamo-gun thread. So everything created by Prakriti or material nature has those 3 gunas. So we are the embodied souls. So because we are in the body, we work through the body-mind complex. That is Maik, which means it's made of Maya, which reveals itself as Prakriti. So everything that is Maik is under the influence of those 3 gunas. So because of that, each one of us has what we call our swabhav, our nature, depending on the domination of each guna. So what Krishna is talking about is know your gunas, know thyself, because it's better to do duty that is aligned with your gunas. So that is why he tells Arjun to fight, because he's a Kshatriya, not because of his birth, but by nature. His nature, his gunas are such that he will naturally be a leader and a king. Okay, so even if he renounces and goes to the forest, he will end up becoming a leader of the people there. That is his inner nature. So that is what Krishna is telling us, that choose the karma that is aligned with your inner nature. Because if you try to be somebody else, that's going to cause disharmony in your own energy field, and you're not going to be able to do that job either, and it's not going to give you happiness. So let's go to the next slide. Can we go to the next slide? So what Krishna is telling us is actually career advice. He's actually telling us what kind of work we should choose. So he's telling you to know your inner nature, be yourself, do not pretend to be somebody else. Harness your natural tendencies to develop your own interests and aptitude. And if you work in harmony with your inner nature, you will find that you'll be happier and more likely to excel. So that right there is what karma to choose for yourself. So, and like it said, even in the material world, if you get paid for what you do, then it does not seem like work anymore, because you're enjoying it, all your forces are aligned, or your energies are aligned with that outcome. So that kind of addresses what type of karma should we choose. So can we go to the next slide? We need to understand here that there are 3 types of karmas in the categories that have been assigned in the science of work. One is called vikarma, another is called karma, and the third is called akarma or karma yoga. So the goal should be to move. So what is vikarma? Vikarma is negative action or forbidden action. Those actions that can result in harmful consequences for yourself and for the society, that is called vikarma. So they are nishedh, which means they should not be done. Okay. Karma are normally your prescribed duties that you do to sustain yourself, your family, your life, your work and profession. All of those are usually falling under karma. And Krishna talks about the concept of akarma or karma yoga. And that's where we are going to talk about in the next few slides. But what he's telling us is to move away from the karma towards karma, and then finally towards akarma or karma yoga. So then we need to here understand that karma is not the same as karma yoga. Okay. So karma does not become karma yoga unless the yoga part is attached to it. So when we work in our world, we work in our job, whatever we work on our profession, that is not really karma yoga unless the yoga part is attached to it. So if you're working in a job, you're earning money, you're taking care of your family, that is just karma. Those are your prescribed duties. You get a fruit for that. You get paid for that. That's simply karma. When does karma become karma yoga? So here's an important point. We need to understand what yoga means. Yoga, as we know, it's a very popular term these days. We have people having yoga studios, teaching yoga, all kinds of different types of yoga. But keep in mind, yoga is not just physical techniques or exercises. Yoga is good for health and well-being and all of those things, but the real meaning of yoga means union. It comes from the yuj dhatu, which means to join. So join what and with what? Yoga means to join your consciousness with the supreme consciousness of the creator, of the source, which we can call God, Brahman, Krishna, whatever way we want to call it. But really, that is what yoga means. So unless we act with the mind in union with God, it's not karma yoga, it's just karma. So unless we have that understanding of being able to perform action with consciousness attached to God, like Swamiji sometimes says, hands to work, mind to God. It is not karma yoga. So now is a good time to ask any questions as we pause. Any thoughts, questions, comments?
Radhe Radhe Aditya Ji. I'm Dale from Florida, and I really appreciate the way that you're discussing this topic of karma. It's very eye-opening, and I enjoy the slides. It really helps to see what's going on with the slides that you're showing to us. It did bring to mind a question for me. I'm wondering, we understand that the actual goal of human life is God realization itself. And so how do we perform our obligatory duties and still attain God?
Thank you for that question, Daleji. Thank you very much. It's a very, very interesting and very logical question to have. So I will try to address that in the next few slides. So here's what we need to understand. When we are performing our actions in our human form, we need to realize what is the purpose of this body, right? And you may have probably seen this or discussed in other Gita sessions, that one of the purposes of human life is to realize God. Because why is that? Because God, the bliss that the soul is seeking is not in the material world. The bliss that the soul seeks is with God. So in the material world, we try to find happiness in things that we do, right, from our job, to get pleasure from the senses, all of those things. But we see that there are two defects in that. One is that happiness is short-lived. It goes away, right? It exhausts itself. And the other thing is the extent to which you can be happy from that is also very limited. So once we kind of go through that process of enjoying something, we exhaust that and we are now looking for the next best thing, right? So we're always searching. The soul is always yearning for more. It tries to find happiness in one thing or the other. Somebody's trying to find it in money. Somebody's trying to find it in other pleasures, right? So, but the real happiness that the soul seeks is the happiness that resides within God. Why is that? In fact, if you go into the Upanishads, it says, God Anando Brahmeti Vedana. That's one of the explanations of who is God. God is bliss. So the soul is seeking that bliss of God. Hence, the solution to find the peace and bliss that the soul seeks is in realizing God. And as your question was, why should we consider, how can we rather attain God while doing all of this in the world? So to answer that question, let's go to my slide and then we'll walk from there. So multiple ways of answering this, and this is the crux of the science of work. So we are heading into that direction. So what Lord Krishna says, and there are two or three shlokas I'm going to discuss here, and then we'll get into my specific slides answering that. One of my favorite ones, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mamanusmarana Yuddhacha. That kind of crux of the teaching of Karma Yoga. So like Swamiji said, hands to work and mind to God. This is saying, always remember me, O Arjuna, and always also do your duty of fighting the war. With the mind and intellect surrender to me, you will definitely attain me. So while you're performing your duty, you still keep me in your mind. Now, there's an interesting point here. Arjuna actually asks Krishna, which is better? Sometimes you talk about renunciation, sometimes you talk about doing karma. Which is better, karma or karma yoga? And Krishna unequivocally says, karma yoga is the path to take. Why does he say that? Two main reasons. One, he says, most people will only see the external actions of other people. And sometimes people choose to take renunciation from action, meaning take sannyas or leave the world in search for God, right? Or saying that they're going to search for God. But they themselves have not got the clarity of whether they are even ready for it. And so at times that can become a tool to escape, right? Escapism. So you can always delude yourself. People can delude themselves believing that they're actually trying to work for God. So externally they may not be acting, but internally they still have the material hankerings. So that's a very, very kind of difficult situation to be in. So Krishna says, it's better to do your karma and then try to realize God than to just quit doing all karmas. Because when you're quitting doing karmas, you're giving away your obligatory duties. That creates imbalance in the society. So that's why you should try to do unless you're absolutely clear of why you want to go in that path. Like, for example, even in the material world, right? People sometimes dedicate their life to a cause. So unless they have a very clear idea of why they're doing it, it is better to continue to do what they're supposed to do while they're exploring that, because sometimes you could always be misled or self-deluded that you are attaining God, but you are really internally just escaping from your real duties, right? And so Krishna is telling you that person who actually leaves the work but materially hankers in their own mind is actually a hypocrite. It's actually said in the Gita. So he warns against that. So he says, so you will be neither here nor there if you don't do the duties and don't reach God either. So he says it's better to continue to do your duty and slowly improve yourself, rise yourself up slowly. So when you become ready for God realization, it can happen. So that's one reason he tells you to follow Karma Yoga. The other reason he says is specifically to Arjuna. He says what great people do, other people follow. And so what people do, and especially like we see even in today's world, right? People who are considered celebrities or people, famous people, other people try to take their example and follow them. And Arjuna was one such person in his time. So Krishna is telling, people will only see your external action. They will not see your internal motivation. They would not know what has brought you to that action. So they will just use your example as an excuse to run away from their duties. They'll say, oh, Arjuna did this, so even I can do that. And that creates a bad example for the society. So that's the other reason he says that you should follow the path of Karma Yoga, which is not mislead or confuse people. Just do your duty. Internally, though, you will act with a different consciousness. That's what we're going to talk about in the next few slides. What is that consciousness? That is the consciousness with which you perform action or karma, which becomes Karma Yoga. So let's go to the next slide.
Thank you for going into this so deeply. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So 2 shlokas. This one, those who see action in inaction and inaction in action are truly wise amongst humans. Although performing all kinds of actions, they are yogis and masters of all their action. And I will talk about the next slide also. Can we put that on? This is one of the most famous shlokas of the Bhagavad Gita, 247. Karmarnevadi karaste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karm phal heturbu mate sangosta vikarmani. You have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but not entitled to the fruits of your actions. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the result of your activities, nor be attached to inaction. Okay. So these 2 shlokas, in a way, summarize the crux of the Gita teaching of Karma Yoga. So what do they really mean? One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction. What does that mean? So when we act in the world, we actually think of ourselves as making choices and being the doers. So a person who's realized will actually see that even though they're acting internally, it's the power of God which is acting through them. Okay, and so that realization is seeing inaction in action. And when you actually are acting out in the world, even though you realize that it's the power of God working through you, you still give it your best effort outwardly, not to confuse people, like I just mentioned, as Krishna told Arjuna, not to confuse others because they're going to just copy you. That is called action in inaction. So basically, while you realize you're not the doer, you are still acting to the best of your ability. And that ties to this shloka, which has got 4 components here. You have right to perform your duties, but you're not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the result of your activities, and don't be attached to inaction. Can we go to the next slide? So there are 4 conditions being highlighted here. Okay. Only when those 4 conditions have been satisfied will we be in Karma Yoga. Otherwise, it's just karma. So what are those 4 conditions? Detachment to the results of action. Number 1. So whatever happens as a consequence, you are not attached to the result of that action. Okay, you don't get affected by it. So while we are acting with full effort, you still are not attached to the result, whether it's favorable or unfavorable. Offering the fruits of action to God. Now, normally in the world, when we work, we do it mostly for ourselves, our family, our close loved ones, or sometimes even when we do charity, we do it for the world. But what Gita is saying is there's another reason you should do it, but another reason for doing the action is to offer the fruit of that action to the Lord himself, because it is by his power that you're acting anyways. So offer the fruits of your action to God. The third aspect of Karma Yoga is giving up the pride and feeling of doership. So that's the hardest thing to give up, by the way. People sometimes can become unattached to the result of their action. They can also offer the fruits of their action to God, just like you do a yajna or havan, you offer that. But the ego, which gets pride from doing something, which especially in case when you're doing something good, there's always this pride that can come back, which says, oh, I did something, or I did something great. That is the hardest thing to give up. So while you're doing detached action, offering the fruits to God, also give up the pride and the feeling of doership, that I did it. So one is doing it, and then the other is the I-ness part of it. So when you realize that it's the power of God truly working through you, the God is the doer and the enjoyer of your actions, that is when you actually are in the state of yoga. And the last part is, while giving your best effort with detachment, you should not be going into inaction. So now that fact that you are detached to the result of the action, even the fruits are being offered to God without any pride of doership, you should still not slack in your effort. You should still do your action with the best of your intent and ability. So that is the essence of the teaching of Karma Yoga. So can we go to the next slide? So here, what I have tried to do is try to kind of link these three dimensions that you need to be on, which is doership versus non-doership and attachment versus detachment results. So I've kind of tried to do it as a 2x2 matrix. So you can see on the left side, there's feeling of doership at the bottom, non-doership at the top, and on the bottom right axis, it's the attachment result to detachment result. So we can be in either of those columns or other boxes at any one point in time. So if we have attachment to the result and also the feeling of doership, which unfortunately many of us have, or most of us have, then we have issues like anxiety and stress because we're attached to the result. We want a certain outcome, we're too attached to it. So that causes us stress. And there is also an ego and pride component there, which will rise up its head, which says, I did it. And so it's both anxiety of the result as well as the pride or ego that you are doing it. When we move to the column on the top, which is the attachment to the result, but non-doership, what we are trying to understand is that we do realize that we are not controlling the actions. So there is a feeling of, I'm not the doer. But because we're attached to the result, we still want a certain outcome. There is still going to be anxiety and stress in that scenario. So even though you don't have the pride that I'm doing something, but you're attached to the outcome, that's going to cause you anxiety and stress. The third box, which is the bottom right corner, that is detachment to the result, but there's feeling of doership. So while, like I said, it's hardest to give away. So you could be detached, okay, fine, whatever happens, I'm going to be ready for it. But there's still a pride associated with it. And this happens even with good karma, right? Especially when we do good karma or something good for others, there still can be a natural tendency to take credit for it or to show that you're good, you know? And that's the ego part of the pride part. So that means that's what we need to work on in that, the pride, because the pride is still there that I did something great. So it takes away from the sattvic aspect of your karma and makes it more rajasic, meaning the mode of passion. But if you are able to take care of all the three, then you are in the fourth column, the fourth box, which is at the top right corner, which is non-doership and detachment to result. That's getting towards karma yoga. That's what we have been talking about in the previous slide. Can we go to the next one? And here I have an again 2x2 matrix, and this one is an interaction of doership with fruits and who is the enjoyer of those fruits. So enjoyment and doership. And here you can see that again, the bottom left corner, you can see that there's a feeling of doership and the fruits are for self-enjoyment, for myself, my family, myself. I'm assuming the family as part of you. In this case, we see that the fruits, basically, we have entitlement. We expect that we are the doer, that the fruits are for us. So there's entitlement, there's greed, all kinds of desires and vasanas, which means we basically want more and more. And this is one of the reasons we are tied in this material world, is because of these desires. We continue to kind of brood on things or develop attachment towards things, continuously have desire because we feel that we are the doers and we are entitled to the result of our actions. This is what ties us in this world. So entitlement, greed, vasanas, desires, and even pride, because we believe we are doing it. So we feel entitled and we have the pride of doing it. And when we go to the top part of that column, which is fruits for self-enjoyment, but non-doership, then even though we basically kind of don't feel that we are doing it, but whatever the world is doing or whatever the circumstances are giving us, we feel that that is for us, right? Everything good happening into the world, we are entitled to it. So there is still a feeling of entitlement, because so you still have desires, even though you realize that there are things you're getting out of what we call luck or bhagya or other people's efforts. Still, so there's no doership there, but there's still a feeling of entitlement. There are still desires. There's still greed. We go to the last right bottom corner, which is feeling of doership with fruits for God's enjoyment. Now here, you are kind of doing everything for God. That's the idea, that you realize that it's for God's enjoyment. So a lot of people who are doing bhakti are trying to go towards that everything I'm offering to God is for God's enjoyment. But there still is sometimes the pride that I am doing it. Even in bhakti, you can develop pride that I have offered myself to God, or I've done something for God. And that's what we need to be careful of here. So unless we renounce that pride of doership, we are in that column or that box. And so when the last one, which says interaction of non-doership, fruits for God's enjoyment, that is real karma yoga. So unless we do all of those conditions that we talked about, this is the representation of those interactions. And unless we are actually able to satisfy all of those criteria, we will not be in karma yoga. So having talked about all of this, now would be a good time to pause and ask for any comments or thoughts or questions.
Radhe Radhe, Dr. Aditya Sharma ji. Amazing explanation. I thoroughly enjoyed your explanation so far, and especially this feeling of doership versus a feeling of enjoyment graph. Although we wanted to be a karma yoga, but most of us are floating in other three sections. So hope with your explanation one day we'll definitely reach to this the stage of karma yoga. I have a question regarding this karma, like how one can act without keeping the fruits in mind.
Thank you for your question, Neeraj, and for your kind words. Absolutely. That's a very, very valid question that I've been asked so many times before. How can you act? So Gita is telling you to do detached action, offer the fruits to God, give up the pride of doership. But then in the material world, we know everything we do is for the result, right? How can you act without keeping the fruits in mind? So I've tried to answer them in the next few slides here. So one of the things we need to keep in mind when Krishna is actually telling Arjuna to act in karma yoga, he's not telling him to act without a goal, right? He's not telling Arjuna, okay, shoot arrows randomly in the air in any direction. He's saying, okay, shoot the arrow towards the goal, which is your enemy whom you want to harm. But with what consciousness do you perform the action? That's the crux of it. So let's go to the next slide. Hopefully that will help us. So the goal is different from the effort, which is different from the result. That is the teaching of the Gita. So it is not talking about not having a goal in mind. You have a goal in mind and you give the effort to work towards it. That's why it says, be careful that even if you're not attached to the result, you don't slack in your effort. You do the best effort. But always realize that, like I showed in the previous slides in the beginning, that there's a complex interaction going on between prarabdha, destiny, and your free choices, effort. All of this very complex interaction is going on. So you don't always control the outcome. You're one of the forces. But what the final result will be may or may not be favorable to you, right? So what it is saying is realize that there are many complex interactions going on in this creation. So you are one of the efforts, which is very important, but realize you are not controlling everything. So here, goal, effort, and result are different. So keep a goal in mind, okay? But do not attach yourself to the fulfillment of that goal, realizing you are one cog in the wheel. Your effort is one part of that. So effort is the work that you put in or the steps you need to accomplish. Goal is what needs to accomplish. Result is whether the goal was achieved or not. Okay. So what is Gita telling us? Focus on the effort, not on the result. Focus on the input, not the output, because only the input is in your domain. So I've tried to, being from the academia, I've tried to give some examples. I don't know if some of them make sense, or at least hopefully some will click. But the idea is trying to relate it to some examples from the world and see how these are different. So let's go to the next slide. Can we go to the next one? So this is an example I came up with. So this is just a simple example to try to see the difference between goal, effort, and result. Let's say you want to go to Atlanta from Raleigh, and you say, I want to start it now at 4 p.m. and I need to be there by 9 p.m. Now, that is your goal. But you will have to make some changes. You have to do the effort to kind of get a means of transport, like a public transport or private transport, take a bus or take a train or fly or drive through your own car. That will be your effort part, planning effort. Okay, take the necessary steps to use and read. But whether you will reach at 9 p.m. or not is not in your hands fully. You can make the effort. What if you go with your car, but 8:30 the tire bursts? What do you do? Or something else, your plane got delayed. Your plane took off and had to come back to land on the airport. What can you do about that? Or there was an accident on the road. You may not reach there by 9 p.m. So what is Gita saying? Okay, you did the best. You had a goal. You did your best with your effort. But realize not everything is going to be under full control. So because of that, if you're detached, okay, I did my best. Finally, everything is not in my control. After putting my best, it's God's will. So a person who is devoted will say, okay, Bhagavan ki yahi ichha hai. This is the will of God. So fine, I'm not going to crib about it, cry. Because the other choice is you can cry about it, crib about it, get angry and upset about it, which is not going to benefit you in any way, by the way. But still, that's another option. So a person who's surrendered and following the path of Gita, they'll say, okay, I did my best. After that, it is not in my hand. So that example hopefully clarified. I have another couple of examples, one from math actually. So can we look at the next slide? So this is a simple example. As some of you may already know, this is a function f of x, which is an input x. And I try to choose a simple example. There's first time the function is 2x, 2 times x. So if x is the input, the output will be f of x, which is 2 times x, which is 2 times 2, which gives you the answer 4. Now, here we can see that the input goes through a certain process, a box, and then gives you the output. Now, you have control over the input. That Krishna is saying the action is in your domain, not its result, which means you have the control over the input, but the output is not always in your control. So you don't really know what that function is. You know, in the real world, we don't know. Now, the same action is the same x of 2. If you were to use the different function, the next function, which is 1 over x, that will not give you answer 4. That will give you 1/2, because x is in the denominator, right? And here the effort, let's say x is effort. So you put 2 in the first function, it gave you 4. In the second function, you increase the effort, gave 5. But the result is half. So you don't know that function, what function the life is going to evaluate, right? So your control is only in the value, that x part. What f of x will evaluate to, you don't know, because you don't know what f of x is. In this example, you know it is 1 over x. But in life, we don't know the life function that that input is going to go through. So because you don't know whether it's going to evaluate to 4 or half, because if it was 2x, this would have evaluated to 10. But this is 1 over x, so it's evaluating to half. So in this example, and we also realize that in fact in 1 over x, if you go to a little bit of mathematics, there is a domain of a function and a range of a function, and we know that x cannot take the value of 0 because it will be undefined for that with 1 over x. So that is not even the domain of the function. So what Krishna is saying, the phal is not even in your domain. Phal of the karma is not even in your domain. You cannot be entitled. मैंने ये किया तो मुझे ये वापस मिलेगा, ये नहीं है, ये ऐसे नहीं चलता. भगवान कह रहे हैं तुम अपने कर्म पे फोकस करो, जो एफ ऑफ एक्स है ना वो मेरे हाथ में है, मैं इवैल्यूएट करूंगा वो, और उसके रिजल्ट के बेसिस पे उसके एफ ऑफ एक्स के इंटरेक्शन से तुम्हें या तो 4 मिलेगा या 2 आधा मिलेगा, बट दैट इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन योर प्रारब्ध, डेस्टिनी, ऑल ऑफ दोज अदर थिंग्स. So sometimes your little bit of effort will align you to give you double the result, and sometimes full effort will give you half the result. This is why. Okay.
Thank you very much, especially from a science background. The last example really helped. Thanks for the clarity. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you. So if we go to the next slide, that's kind of building on that. So here, that is what I put here. So there is input, which is effort, and the operation, which is, we can call this the life function. This life function depends on our previous karmas, destiny, prarabdha, whatever we can call it. And based on that, this process through which the input goes through, and then there's an output, which is your result. So what is the Gita teaching us? Focus on the input, what is in your domain. The result is not always in your control, because you don't know what the life function will evaluate to in any given situation. So only focus on the input, because the process box is not in your hands. And so the output can be favorable or unfavorable. What the Gita teaches us is to be sthit pragya, or be in equanimity, meaning taking likes and dislikes, pleasure and pain, sukh dukkha samay kritva labha labha jaya jayo. O Arjuna, keep sukh dukh labha hani jay parajay saman, equivalent. So, and accept whatever life has to offer you with gratitude and joy. That is the teaching of the Gita and this part of Karma Yoga. Can we go to the next one? So, how does this lead to God realization? Well, like we talked about, karma alone will not lead us to God realization. But when you have the element of yoga, which means you're connected to the God consciousness while you're acting, then, like it says in the teachings, to work alone you have the right not to claim its reward, but not let the lack of reward lead you to inaction. What is yoga? Union, skill in action, evenness of mind. So be engaged in action with your mind steady, unaffected by success and failure. But this stage is only achieved when the focus is only on action and not its result. Okay. So let your work, so this is the key, let your work become your reward and offer its result to God as its enjoyer. When you realize that everything is done for the pleasure and glory of God, you will naturally be, every action you will do will become an act of prayer in the service of the Lord. So when you offer the results of your action to God, as if you're offering a fruit or prasad, or as if you're making an offering in the yagya or havan, then you basically are not attached, you're not bound by the karma anymore. So make the work itself to be your reward and offer the result as God being the enjoyer of that. Let's go to the next slide. Also, while you're acting on it, the consciousness with which you're acting, which means realize the power of God at work through you. Realize that you are not the doer. God is working through you. So the whole plan is to work and realize that it is God's effort, God working through you to realize the fruits of your action. And hence God is both working as well as the enjoyer of the actions of your work. So do not be attached with the outcome. Offer the actions, fruit to the God with gratitude in every situation and circumstance. Because normally when we get upset, we are upset because we believe we are entitled to those actions and their fruits. So if you give up that feeling of attachment to the result and the feeling of ownership and doership, then you naturally will surrender those fruits to the feet of the Lord. And that is how you actually can attain God or God realization through the path of Karma Yoga. By giving the feeling of doership, which actually is one of the weakest things for us as human beings under the influence of Maya, is this feeling of giving up the pride of doing something. And so when you realize I'm not the doer, God is working through me, it is by His power. There is a very nice example of Tulsi Das when he wrote the Ramcharitmanas. So somebody praised him about it, and he said, Tulsi Tulsi sab kahe, Tulsi ban ki ghas, ho gai kirpa Ram ki ban gaye Tulsi Das. Meaning it is not me, it is the power of Ram by which I'm able to write and put this into poetry. So when you realize the presence of God and God working through you, then you actually are in communion with God, and every action will become that act of prayer. That is what was meant when we talked about one who can see action in inaction and inaction in action, because even when you're acting, you realize you are not the actor. It's God working through you. And inaction in action, so and action that, and in terms of action in inaction, you're basically, while you know that you're not the doer, you still outwardly do the best you can for putting your best effort for that particular action. So that is the essential teaching of the Karma Yoga. So let's go to the next slide. I think I pretty much covered everything that I wanted to talk about. Any other questions or thoughts anybody has, I'm welcome to take that.
Thank you, Dr. Aditya ji. I really loved your presentation and the way you explain things. I really love it. But one question I have is, how does our karmas impact our work that we do in our life?
So basically, the karmas and the gunas influence in a very complex manner. And the gunas, typically somebody who will be in the profession like a soldier or any of these are kshatriya type gunas, which means that there is more a mode of passion there. You have to be passionate towards your country, whatever you're trying to do. So all of these determine what kind of nature we typically have. That's why some people are aligned to go into the armed forces. Some people really like to study a lot, read. That is more towards the sattva guna of trying to get knowledge, gain knowledge. So these gunas interact, as I mentioned in the slides where we talked about the trying to find the right profession to work in. That is what Krishna is telling you, to realize who you are, what kind of gunas are dominant in you. If you're more rajasic, and each of us has influence of all the three gunas. Sometimes more gunas dominate in one direction than the other. Some people who like to do more things by hand, they will probably do more hand type work, right? Artistic work. Whereas somebody who's trying to do more literature work or reading, studying, teaching, that is considered more work of, in the old times it used to be the work of priests or Brahmins. So there, that will be considered more in the mode of, and even there you have to find the mode of goodness. For whom are you doing it? Is it for only me? Then it's still mode of passion. It's not sattvic. Just because you're doing something which seems to be good, it does not become sattvic until the intention behind it is important. कुछ अच्छा भी कर रहे हैं, उसमें भी अगर मैं आ गया, मैं कर रहा हूँ, तो वो फिर वो सात्विक से रजोगुण हो गया वो, क्योंकि आप में आ गया वो कि मैंने किया है. तो बिल्कुल अगर इसमें वो भाव ही नहीं आ रहा, सिर्फ अच्छे के लिए कर रहे हो अच्छा, तो फिर वो अपने आप सात्विक की तरफ चला जाता है. और when you are doing it obviously for, hopefully none of us is like that, but if you do something deliberately to harm somebody, then that is tamogun, that is harming people, and that we should definitely avoid. That is called vikarma. So these gunas will influence us because of the basic tendencies we have had over many lifetimes. What the Gita is telling us to move from the tamogun to rajo to sattvic. But in the end, what Krishna is telling is, सारे गुण छोड़ दो, सात्विक भी निकल जाओ, उससे भी गुणों के ऊपर उठ जाओ, गुणातीत बन जाओ. So what is he telling us? To rise above the gunas, not being attached. So जो things we talked about in Karma Yoga, not the feeling of doership, giving up the enjoyment of the fruits, and detached action, that will take you away from all the gunas, because then even while you're acting, you're not accumulating any karma. It is like multiplying with a zero. 1 million times zero is zero. So that is the answer, hopefully.
Okay, thank you. But how about if sometimes some people have a second career in life? Do the mood change as well?
Yeah, gunas can always. Yeah, gunas are not fixed. They change. Even in a person from morning to night, you can be under different influence.
Right.
सुबह सात्विक होते, normally इसलिए तो कहते हैं सुबह पूजा करो. सुबह naturally when we usually get up, we are in the sattvic mode. And we hit the world with all kind of things, situations. Then we get more and more influenced by Rajas Guna. Then we can, but yeah. So even from morning to night, same person can have different gunas. And so career mein to definitely, as you go towards God, you might align yourself more and more towards godly things, sattvic guna. And the most important thing is, while we are doing that, internally we need to be pure. Internally we should, even when somebody is doing bad, we should know how to, even if we want to oppose so that they don't take advantage of us, we should do it without any malice. दुर्भावना नहीं, कृपालू जी महाराज बहुत बार बोलते हैं, मन में किसी के लिए बुरा नहीं आए।
Right.
आप अगर उनको अपोज भी करें तो आप पोलाइटली करें और दूर हो जाएं चुपचाप, लेकिन मन में बुरी भावना नहीं लेके आए।
Thank you so much. Thank you. It explained to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Radhe
Meenal.
Radhe, Radhe Radhe.
Thank you for your time. So by the grace of the Lord and Swami Mukundananda ji, this was a great opportunity to share my thoughts on Karma Yoga. Hope you enjoyed the session and also was beneficial to you. And thank you for this opportunity. And it was a pleasure discussing and teaching this with you.
Thank you, Aditya ji, for such an amazing session. So, audience, do let us know your thoughts on what was your key takeaway from today. Nidhi ji, every
Yes.
time I hear these sessions, I feel like, saying, "Arey wah wah wah, arey wah wah wah."
You're right. And, as you have asked the audience, I think I will also be posting few comments there, because I did note some of the key insights. So definitely be watchful of my comment there on Karma Yoga. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So I would also like to give out some food for thought, anybody who is interested. So it goes like, the meaning of karma is in the intention. The intention behind action is what matters. Those who are motivated only by the desire for the fruits of action are miserable, for they are constantly anxious about the results of what they do. So that is our food for thought. And with this, let's hear our agenda for tomorrow from Nidhi ji.
Oh, Kavita, I'm so excited to share with you the agenda for tomorrow. Of course, the recitation and reading will continue. So, reading is very, very important, Kavita. I feel words like we don't usually understand it, but since reading is there immediately afterwards, so what we do is we try to assimilate, absorb that, the meaning and the wisdom behind that. So that will definitely continue. And in our special session, the talk of the day is by JK Yoga Academy instructor Rajesh Ji. And you will love the topic. The topic will be holistic wellness from Gita. See, there are so many things, so many mysterious knowledge is filled in Gita. So I think you guys will love this session. So you have to share it now, the festival details with your friends. Even you can share the topic that we are going to have tomorrow. So that's all for today. And special note, Kavita, I'm going to disclose what we have. Okay,
what is that?
The grand finale on March 21st. Of course, we do have award ceremony for all the winners. But apart from that, you will be thrilled actually. There is going to be exclusive interaction between Swami Mukundananda and Jaya Rao. Do you know Jaya Rao, Kavita? She is, authority, I would say, in the, you guys can go and research in Wikipedia about her in Bhagavad Gita. She's given a lot of talks. She's written a lot of books. So definitely many people in India and abroad know her. So we are going to have an interesting, exclusive interaction, between both of them. So thank you for attending this marvelous, wonderful, stupendous, super duper International Gita Festival. Looking forward for day 5. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.